Royal Caribbean's Liberty of the Seas has recently come out of a major refit, with new venues, updated spaces, and changes across several decks. But this video isn't just a quick look around the ship. I'm going to take you on a full deck-by-deck tour of Liberty of the Seas, showing you where everything is, what's on board, what has changed, what hasn't, and the practical things worth knowing before you sail. Starting right at the very top of Liberty of the Seas, Deck 15 is a very small public deck, and this is where you'll find the Skylight Chapel. This is a quiet, tucked-away space high up on the ship, used for weddings, vow renewals, and private ceremonies. It's not somewhere most passengers will spend a lot of time during a cruise, but it's worth knowing it's here, especially if you're trying to understand the full layout of the ship before you sail. Moving down to Deck 14 now. This is one of the quieter upper decks on Liberty of the Seas, sitting above the main pool and outdoor activity areas. The main public venue up here is Olive or Twist, which is one of the best places on the ship for elevated views over the pool deck, the ocean, and the areas below. During the day and early evening, Olive or Twist can be a really nice, quieter place to sit with a drink and enjoy the views, especially if the pool deck or Royal Promenade feel busy or the weather isn't great. But later at night, this venue becomes much livelier. Depending on the cruise schedule, this is where you may find things like karaoke, silent disco, and late-night music, so it can turn from a calm viewing lounge in the daytime into one of the ship's main late-night venues. Also located around this upper lounge area is the Crown Lounge, but this isn't open to all passengers. It's a dedicated lounge for eligible Crown and Anchor loyalty members, so access depends on your Royal Caribbean loyalty status. On the opposite side, you'll find the Suite Lounge, which is also restricted access. This is reserved for qualifying suite guests and gives those passengers their own private lounge space away from the main public areas of the ship. Up next is Deck 13, and starting right at the very front of the ship, you'll find Liberty Dunes. This is the ship's mini golf course, and because it sits high up at the front of Liberty of the Seas, you get some lovely open views while you're playing. There are also plenty of sun lounges around this area, and it's one of those spots that passengers can easily forget about. So on a busy sunny sea day, if the main pool deck is full, this can be a good place to come and look for a quieter place to sit. One thing to know about Deck 13 is that you can't walk all the way along the ship on this deck. Once you've seen the forward section around Liberty Dunes, you'll need to go down to Deck 12, walk further aft, and then come back up again to reach the sports and water slide area at the back of the ship. Once you reach the aft section of Deck 13, the atmosphere changes completely. Here you'll find the rock climbing wall, which is one of Royal Caribbean's classic onboard activities. It sits outside at the aft of the ship, and when it's open, passengers can have a go at climbing with views out over the sea. Just nearby is the sports court, which is used for games and organized activities during the cruise. Depending on the schedule, you may see basketball, football, or other sports taking place here. This is also where you'll find the Perfect Storm waterslide area. Liberty of the Seas has the twin racing waterslides, Cyclone and Typhoon, where you can race side by side as you twist down towards the deck below. You'll also find Tidal Wave here, which is Royal Caribbean's boomerang-style waterslide at sea. This one feels different from the racing slides, because instead of just twisting down, you slide down, go up the wall, and then come back again. Together with the FlowRider nearby, this gives the aft of Deck 13 a proper water park feel, and it's a popular area for families and older children during the day. Let's move down to Deck 12, and starting right at the very front of the ship, you'll find the upper area around the Vitality at Sea Spa. This is where you'll find part of the spa, along with some cabins located right forward on the deck. These cabins are newer than some of the original cabins on Liberty of the Seas, but they weren't added as part of this latest amplification. As you move further aft, one of the biggest changes you'll notice around this part of the ship is the lime and coconut top bar. This was added during the recent amplification and replaced the older pool bar setup. It now gives the pool deck a brighter, more Caribbean-style feel than Liberty had before. The main pool deck is down on Deck 11, but from the top bar on Deck 12, you get a raised view over the lime and coconut, the pools, and the outdoor areas below. Around this area, you'll also see some of the new resort-style seating that was added as part of the pool deck refresh. There are also private casitas, which are upgraded poolside cabanas you can hire during your cruise if you want a more private place to relax with dedicated seating. Just above the lime and coconut top bar, there's also a small seating area that feels a little bit tucked away. This is one of those spots that people can easily walk past without really noticing, but it's worth knowing about. Continuing along Deck 12, you'll also find the running track, which runs along both sides of the ship above the main pool deck. It's a good place for a morning walk or run, but it's worth knowing that on a busy, sunny sea day, this area can get quite crowded. Because there are sun lounges nearby and people moving between the pool areas, it may not always feel like the easiest place to do a proper run once the deck gets busy. Further along the deck, you'll pass the movie screen, which overlooks the main pool deck and is used for films, music, and entertainment at different points during the cruise. Towards the back of the ship, you'll find more of the family and children's areas. Adventure Ocean is located here, which is Royal Caribbean's youth program for younger guests. This area has been updated as part of the refit, but it has also been reduced in size because some of the space around this part of the ship has been used for new staterooms. I'll talk more about the new cabins later in the video when we get to the cabin section. Also, in this aft section, you'll find the nursery, which is the dedicated space for younger children. The living room is also located here, and this is one of the teen spaces on Liberty of the Seas. Nearby, you'll find the video arcade, which has a selection of games and machines, and this is another area that tends to appeal to families and younger passengers during the cruise. You'll also find Johnny Rockets on Deck 12, which is Royal Caribbean's American-style diner serving burgers, fries, milkshakes, and classic diner food. Right at the aft of the deck is Fuel Teen Disco, which is another dedicated teen space used during the cruise. Deck 11 is one of the most important decks on Liberty of the Seas, especially during the day. Starting right at the very front of Deck 11, you'll find the Vitality at Sea Fitness Center. The gym on Liberty of the Seas is large and very well equipped, with a good mix of cardio machines, free weights, and strength equipment. It's also in a lovely position right at the front of the ship, so while you're working out, you've got big windows and views out towards the sea. One thing that has changed after the amplification is that the previous free sauna and steam room have gone. Those areas were removed as part of the changes to make room for new cabins on Deck 11. So if you've sailed on Liberty before, that's one of the differences you may notice in this part of the ship. Moving aft from the gym, you come to the Solarium. This is the adults-only pool and relaxation area, and it's one of the most popular places on board if you want somewhere a little calmer than the main pool deck. There's a pool, bar, lounges, and a seating area here. And also there are 2 large cantilevered hot tubs that sit out over the side of the ship. Those hot tubs are one of the standout features because you're sitting out over the edge of the ship with views straight down to the sea below. They are also covered, so can be used whatever the weather. As you continue aft, you reach the main pool deck, and this is where the amplification is most obvious. The pool deck has been refreshed with new seating areas and a brighter look around the main pools. The lime and coconut replaced the old pool bar setup and sits right in the middle of the pool deck. This is one of the main bars on Liberty during the day, and it gives the pool area much more of a fun Caribbean feel than it had before. Around the pool deck, you'll find the main pool, the sports pool, and 3 whirlpools, along with plenty of sun lounges. This is where a lot of passengers will spend their time on a warm sea day. You'll also find the towel station here. Further aft is Splashaway Bay, which is the children's water play area on Liberty of the Seas. Splashaway Bay itself hasn't really changed as part of the amplification, but it's still one of the main family areas on the pool deck, with water features, shallow splash areas, and space for younger children to enjoy the water. There are also 2 whirlpools in this area. Near Splashaway Bay, you'll also find Sprinkles, which is the soft-serve ice cream station. Also around this part of the deck is Tide and Trail. One of the other new additions on Deck 11 is El Loco Fresh and Cantina Fresca. El Loco Fresh is a complimentary casual Mexican-style food venue, serving things like burritos and tacos, and a salsa station. Beside it is Cantina Fresca, which is the bar area serving Mexican-style drinks and cocktails. Continuing right to the aft of Deck 11, you'll reach the Windjammer. This is the main buffet restaurant on Liberty of the Seas, and it's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner during the cruise. Because it sits right at the back of the ship, it also has some great views from the windows, especially if you can get a table near the aft or along the sides. Just before you reach the Windjammer, you'll also find 2 of the ship's specialty restaurants. On one side is Chop's Grill, which is Royal Caribbean Steakhouse, and on the other side is Giovanni's Table, which is the Italian specialty restaurant on board. You'll also find the Plaza Bar in this area, just outside the Windjammer. There are also 2 fountain soda stations around this part of Deck 11. I'll cover the Liberty of the Seas dining options properly in a separate guide. Before we move further down the ship, let's look at the cabins on Liberty of the Seas, because this is one area where it's worth knowing what has changed and what hasn't. I did Liberty of the Seas as a back-to-back cruise, so I actually stayed in 2 different balcony cabins. My first cabin was on Deck 8, and my second cabin was on Deck 12. And the important thing to know is that the existing cabins weren't part of the recent amplification, so if you're booking one of the older cabins, don't expect it to feel brand new just because the ship has had a refit. My Deck 8 balcony cabin was absolutely fine and had everything I needed, but it did look more dated compared with newer cruise ship cabins. The Deck 12 balcony cabin felt newer, although it wasn't newly added as part of this latest amplification. In terms of layout, The balcony cabins are fairly typical for a Royal Caribbean ship of this age. You've got the main bed, which can usually be arranged as one larger bed or split into two singles. Most balcony cabins also have a sofa, which gives you somewhere to sit during the day, along with a desk and dressing table area. There's a good amount of storage, with wardrobe space, shelves, and drawers. The cabin also includes a fridge, hairdryer, TV, and safe. At the desk area, you'll find both European and US plug sockets. But one thing to know is that there are no plug sockets by the bed. There also isn't a kettle in the cabin as standard, but you can ask for one on board. The bathroom is small, as you'd expect on most cruise ships, but it has the basics you need, including the toilet, sink, storage shelves, and shower. Shower gel and shampoo are provided in the shower, so you don't need to bring those unless you prefer using your own. One thing Liberty of the Seas doesn't have is passenger laundrettes, so you can't do your own washing on board in the way you can on some other cruise lines. There were also new cabins added as part of the amplification. Some new cabins were added on Deck 11 near the gym, replacing the previous free sauna and steam room area. There were also new ocean view suites added on Deck 12, near Adventure Ocean. Although on the first sailings after the refit, these still weren't ready and were still being worked on. And one of the most unusual new cabin areas is down on Deck 4. These cabins are accessed through a glass door next to the casino, and they sit in the casino area itself. There are also a couple of small spaces on the cabin decks that are worth knowing about. Near the aft elevators on Deck 9, you'll find a small library area. It's not a huge space, but it's a quiet little spot tucked away from the busier public decks. And on Decks 10 down to 6, there are small seating areas where you can look down over the promenade below. Moving down to Deck 5 now, and starting right at the very front, there's a hidden spot that's well worth knowing about. Liberty of the Seas has an outside helipad at the front of the ship, and you can usually access it during the cruise when it's open. To get there, go through the door on the right-hand side of the Star Lounge and follow the outside walkway forward. It's one of the best places on board for Sailaway, with open views straight ahead, seating if you want to stay a while. And yes, this is where people do the classic Titanic pose. Coming back inside, the first main venue on Deck 5 is the Star Lounge. This is a large lounge at the front of the ship, used for different activities during the cruise. Near the Star Lounge, you'll also find one of the changes from the amplification, with the new Royal Escape Room. Moving aft from this area, you come into the Royal Promenade. This is one of the main indoor hubs of Liberty of the Seas, and it's one of the features that makes the ship feel quite different from many other cruise ships. At the forward end of the Royal Promenade, you'll find the Promenade shops, along with Sorrento's. Sorrento's is the included pizza venue on board, and it's a really handy place to know about if you want something quick, casual, and easy during the day or later in the evening. You'll also find the Hoof and Claw pub on this deck, which is Liberty's British-style pub venue. Opposite Hoof and Claw is Vintages, which is the wine bar on Liberty of the Seas. As you continue along the promenade, you'll pass several retail areas selling things like clothing, jewelry, watches, perfume, souvenirs, and duty-free items. Further along is Café Promenade. It serves snacks and light bites during the day and evening, and it's also a good place to grab tea, coffee, or something small without going up to the buffet. Near this area, you'll find the ice cream parlor and the cupcake cupboard. So this section of the promenade has quite a few casual snack options close together. Continuing aft, you'll find Next Cruise, where you can book future cruises. You'll also find guest services on Deck 5, and this is where you'd go if you need help with anything during the cruise, from account questions to general onboard issues. Just nearby is the R Bar, which sits close to the aft end of the Royal Promenade. And finally, right at the aft of Deck 5, you'll find Botticelli, which is the upper level of the main dining room. One of the things you'll notice here is the large glass chandelier, which hangs through the center of the dining room and gives the space a much grander feel. On to Deck 4 next, and starting right at the very front of the ship, you'll find the top level of the Platinum Theatre. This is Liberty of the Sea's main theatre, where you'll find the big production shows, guest entertainers, and some of the main evening performances during the cruise. Moving aft from the theatre, one of the first major venues you'll come to is Izumi Teppanyaki. This is one of the new dining additions from the amplification, and it replaced Sabor, a Mexican specialty restaurant in this area. Izumi Teppanyaki is Royal Caribbean's Japanese hibachi-style dining venue, where the chef cooks in front of you at the table, so it's as much about the experience as it is about the food. Opposite this area, you'll find the Schooner Bar, which is one of Royal Caribbean's classic bar venues. This has a nautical theme and a more traditional cruise ship feel, and it's often used for things like trivia, quizzes, piano music, and evening drinks. As you move further aft from the Schooner Bar, you come to the entrance of Casino Royale. There are now cabins on Deck 4, right by the casino entrance, as you move from the Schooner Bar into Casino Royale. and you access them through a glass door in this area. I mentioned these earlier in the cabin section, but it's worth pointing out again as we pass them, because it is quite an unusual location for cruise ship cabins. The casino was always a popular area on Liberty of the Seas, but it has now been expanded as part of the amplification. The expanded casino took over space that was previously used for other areas, and it means there are now more gaming tables and slot machines on board. If you've sailed on Independence of the Seas, or some of the other Freedom-class ships, you may notice that this area feels quite different. Because on Independence, the space is used for playmakers, which personally I think is a better use of the space. But the casino on Liberty was definitely popular. Continuing aft, you'll reach the Boleros area. There had been some concern before the refit that Boleros might be replaced, but it hasn't disappeared from Liberty of the Seas, and it remains the ship's Latin-style bar, with music, dancing, and a lively atmosphere later in the evening. Opposite is Starbucks, which is another new addition from the amplification. Right nearby is the Centrum area, which opens up through the middle of the ship and helps connect the lower public decks. And finally, right at the aft of Deck 4, you'll find the middle level of the main dining room. This level is called Michelangelo, and it's part of Liberty's 3-deck main dining room. Before we leave Deck 4, there's one more area that's really worth knowing about, and that's the wraparound promenade deck. You can access the outside promenade from Deck 4, and this is one of the nicest places on Liberty of the Seas if you want a proper walk outside, close to the sea. There are shuffleboard courts along the promenade as well, so it's a nice classic cruise ship feature, tucked away from the main activity areas. This is also an important deck for practical reasons, because you'll usually complete your muster drill from this promenade area, and depending on the port, you may also embark and disembark from Deck 4. Let's move down to Deck 3, and starting right at the very front of the ship, you'll find another level of the Platinum Theatre. This is part of the main theatre space on Liberty of the Seas, where you'll find the production shows, guest entertainers, and some of the larger performances during the cruise. One thing that's worth knowing on Deck 3 is that you can't walk straight from the forward theatre area through to Studio B. So, if you're at the Platinum Theatre and you want to get to Studio B, you'll usually need to go back up to Deck 4, walk further aft, and then come back down again. Once you reach the midship section of Deck 3, you'll find Studio B. This is Liberty of the Seas' ice rink, and one of the more unusual entertainment spaces on board. Studio B is used for the ice shows during the cruise, and those are definitely worth looking out for, because it's not every ship where you can watch an ice show at sea. It can also be used for other events, activities, and entertainment, depending on the cruise schedule. Moving further aft, you'll come to the photo and shore excursions area. This part of the ship has been updated during the amplification, so it now brings together the photo area and shore excursions in this section of Deck 3. Nearby, you'll also find the art gallery, which has artwork on display and is also used for art-related events and auctions during the cruise. And finally, right at the aft of Deck 3, you'll find Rembrandt, which is the lower level of the main dining room. This is worth noting because Rembrandt is the main dining room level used for breakfast and lunch, as well as dinner. So while the main dining room is spread across 3 decks, Deck 3 is the level you'll usually use if you're going to the dining room earlier in the day. And finally, Deck 2, and this is mainly a cabin deck on Liberty of the Seas. You'll see on the deck plan that the Platinum Theatre and Studio B both extend down to this level. But one important thing to know is that you don't actually access either of them from Deck 2. So if you're going to the theatre, you'll use the entrances on the higher decks. And if you're going to Studio B for the ice show or another event, you'll access that from Deck 3, not from Deck 2. But for passengers, Deck 2 is mostly about cabins and moving between the lift areas. Around the middle of the deck, you'll also find the loyalty desk, which is where you can speak to the team about Crown and Anchor loyalty questions during your cruise. And then finally, below this on Deck 1, you'll find the ship's medical center. Hopefully, it's not somewhere you'll need to visit during your cruise, but it's useful to know where it is just in case. So that's my full ship tour of Liberty of the Seas, working deck by deck, from top to bottom. I've pointed out some of the refit changes as we've gone around the ship, but there's a lot more to say about what changed, what wasn't quite ready, and what you need to know before booking. So next, watch my 10 things you need to know about the Liberty of the Seas refit, where I'll go through the amplification in much more detail.